Vedash. This is a quote from Rigveda. Adoration to our rishis and munis, our ancient pathfinders. A wonderful occasion today on Natyashastra, which has been bestowed to us by Bharata Muni, and I'm sure the evening will be wonderful. I now call upon Radhika Joshi to start with the proceedings.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, everyone. So, before we start our program, I would like to welcome our esteemed guest. He needs no introduction, though. Uh, his work speaks cloths. He is none other than Amish Tripathi ji. His Shiva trilogy, his Ramacharya series has broken all records in Indian publishing history. Thank you. He comes from very two different worlds, from banks to books, very two different indeed. And his works transports the reader to yet another different world. And he's not just that. Well, I can go on introducing, I can talk about this phenomenal person, but I will just introduce with another feather is that he's also a diplomat. He's Minister for Culture and Education at Indian High Commission here in the UK. He's also the director of Nehru Centre. So here I call upon Amish Tripathi ji. Welcome to you, sir.
Namaste, everyone. I'm certainly not here as an author. I'm here in the lucky position of being director of the Nehru Centre. And why I say lucky is because it affords me the honor of hosting scholars such as Professor Radha Vallabh Tripathi. I assure you, though my surname is also Tripathi, I am not a relative of his. There is no nepotism going on out here. We just happen to share the same community surname. But one of the key reasons why gurus and scholars such as Professor Tripathi are required. How many of you were educated in India? We can have a show of hands. The Indian education system is such that even 75 years after independence, it has not been decolonized. The entire aim of the education system is to somehow turn us into pale adaptations of the citizens of the country that we are in. And we lose the ancestral knowledge, the deep knowledge of our own traditions. Since the education system doesn't do that, we are dependent on gurus such as Professor Tripathi to educate us through their books. Some of us are lucky that we are born in families that we learn many of these things, many are not. And which is where I had read a book of Professor Tripathi Vada many years ago. I had tweeted on it, and at that point of time, some had pointed out his CV to me. And since then, I've been a big fan of his. And it is such an honor for us at Nehru Centre to host him. And he will expound on what is one of the foundational texts of Indian performing arts. We are a platform, we are a stage to celebrate Indian arts, and among them, of course, our performing arts. And the Natyashastra is the most ancient text anywhere in the world to guide us on the performing arts. And we are looking forward to Professor Tripathi's expounding on this. Professor Saab, it is an honor. It is the Nehru Centre's honor that you have agreed to come here. With all of us, if we can have a loud round of applause and thank him for his graciousness. Thank you. That's all I want to say. I will leave it to the rest of the program now. Thank you.
Thank you, Amish ji. Very educative and inspiring talk as always from you. So next is an invocation prayer. by Atmadip Bhattacharji. He is a Hindustani classical singer, currently training under the tutelage of Guru Chandrena Mishra at the Bhavan. Here for you, Vandana by Atmadip Bhattacharji.
Namaste, everybody. Uh, I'm just going to do a very short uh, presentation. It's essentially a shlok, Upanishad shlok, that kind of celebrates the oneness that binds the whole human society, the whole universe, in fact. And yeah, here it goes. Shrinantu Vishve Amritasya Putra Aedhamani Devyani Tastu Vedamayetam Purusham Mahatam Aditya Varanam Tamasa Parastat Tvameva Videtva Atimrityu Meti Nana Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya Nana Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya Nana Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Atmadip, for that soulful rendition and setting the right mood for the evening. Next, we have Shiva Stuti by Priya Kushwaha. Priya Kushwaha has been learning Kathak since a very long time under the tutelage of Guru Urmila Sharma and Pandit Jaikishan Maharaj Ji. Shiva Stuti by Pushpa Kushwala.
धाम धिन ताम धीरता 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 धातेदा धीरता धीरता धातेदा धीरता 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 धातेदा धीरता धातेदा धाते धा धाते धा धाते धा धाते धा 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 धा
Thank you, Priya. That was really highly energetic, and I'm sure Natya and Nataraj invoking him today wouldn't have been better than this. Next is Pushpanjali, Pushpanjali by Manju Sunil. Manju has done her post-graduation in Bharatanatyam under the tutelage of Janani Sethu Narayan, currently pursuing her diploma in Mohiniyattam under Guru Jayaprabha Menanji. Pushpanjali in Raga Jo Aditala.
तद्धित्तां तजं तां तां धित्तां तजं धीं धीं तां तजं धूं धूं तजं जं जं तां तद्धित्तां तजं तां तां धित्तां तजं धीं धीं तां तजं धूं धूं तजं जं जं तजनुत तद्धित्तां तजं तां तां धित्तां तजं धीं धीं तां तजं धूं धूं तजं जं जं गजनुत तद्धित्तां तजं तां तां धित्तां तजं धीं धीं तां तजं धूं धूं तजं जं जं गजनुत तद्धित्तां तजं तां तां धित्तां तजं धीं धीं तां तजं धूं धूं तजं जं जं तजं तां तत्तजं धीं तत्तजं तां तत्तां तजं तत्तजं झं झं तजं तत्ततां तजं तां तत्तजं धीं तत्तजं तां तत्तां तजं झं झं तजं तत्ततां ततझं झं ततझं झं ततझं झं तां 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 तरि तरि तझं तण तण तझं झणु झणु तझं तां तरि तरि तझं तण तण तझं झणु झणु तझं तां तकतां तां तदां तदां तकतां धीं तधीं तधीं ततकधीं ॐ ततों ततों ततकतों तझणु ततधिमि ततकजं तकजं तकधरि तजं तधण ततजं तधरि तधण तजं तधिमितां तकधरि तजं तधण ततजं तधरि तधण तझणु तधिमितां तधरि तधण तजं तधिमितां तद्धिक्कु तद्धिं गिडको तद्धिक्कु तद्धिं गिडको तद्धिक्कु तद्धिं गिडको तधरि तधण तझणु तधिमि तद्धिं गिडको तद्धिं गिडको तद्धिं गिडको तधरि तधण तझणु तधिमि धित्तां भजं तां तां धित्तां भजं धीं धीं तां भजं धूं धूं भजं जं
That has set a wonderful tone to the main keynote speech by Professor Radha Vallabh Tripathi ji. Now that we are talking about Natyashastra and we have the like-minded here, how many of you know what actually Natyashastra has apart from dance? That is, anybody knows beyond dance what Natyashastra has? Of course, that's the topic today that you will know. Drama, okay. Okay, yeah, Munch Drama Theatre. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Rasa. For another 3 minutes, because we have a misconception that Natyashastra is only about dancing, which is not. It has entire chapters on musical instruments, for example. 4 types of musical instruments, wind instruments, string instruments, the ghana. So only for about a couple of minutes, we just want to set the tone, sir. And you will see the different musical instruments that are mentioned in Natyashastra, basically. So, Dr. Anjali Sharma Tiwari is a PhD holder in musical instruments from Banastali University. So for about 3 minutes, we will have the musical instruments followed by Professor Tripathiji's presentation.
Hello, namaste, namaskar. Not just instruments, I will cover Deshi and Margi Sangeet as well. The classical and folk is mentioned in Natya Shastra. Track, please. Track, please.
जब देखो बना के लाल पीले अकीना हो जब देखो बना के लाल पीले अकीना नहीं डरूसा भले दिखाऊं अखियां मैं नहीं डरूसा भले दिखाऊं अखियां जयपुरी शहर से मैं चूनरी ले आयो रे हो जयपुरी शहर से मैं चूनरी ले आयो रे नहीं हो गुस्सा भले दिखाओ अखियां नहीं हो गुस्सा भले दिखाओ अखियां जो थाने रे शहर से मैं मोजड़ी ले आयो रे हो जो थाने रे शहर से मैं मोजड़ी ले आयो रे नहीं पहनू सा भले दिखाऊं अखियां नहीं पहनू सा भले दिखाऊं अखियां हो लाल पीली अखियां गुलाबी पीली अखियां हो लाल पीली अखियां गुलाबी पीली अखियां नहीं डरता भले दिखाऊं अखियां नहीं डरता भले दिखाऊं अखियां साजन फूल गुलाब रो मैं फूला की वास साजन फारो काल जो मैं सोचन रोसास
So a contemporary touch to the different types of musical instruments that are mentioned in Natya Shastra. Um, We would like to now invite Professor Radha Vallabh Tripathi ji, whose keynote speech is about the relevance of Natyashastra in the modern world. Professor Tripathi ji has been a vice chancellor for 3 different universities in the last 20-25 years, and he has been visiting professor also in Bangkok. Several feathers in his cap, more than 35 national and international awards for his contributions to literature, including the recent Sahitya Academy Award for Children's Literature. And he specializes in Natya Shastra. And I thought I should mention this, that it's our privilege to have him here in London, coinciding with something else that we would be announcing maybe in about 30-40 minutes' time. Professor Tripathi ji.
आंगिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नुमः सात्विकं शिवम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः. I am really very happy to be here, to be with you, with all of you, amidst such a distinguished audience. And I'm thankful to the authorities of Nehru Centre and Sanskruti, the Centre for Cultural Excellence, for being given this opportunity. I had no idea that I would be facing such an enlightened audience and so many distinguished persons, very eminent personalities, and I am really happy that Amish ji could make it and to join this event. He is one of my favorite authors, and it was a pleasure to go through his trilogy on Shiva and other works. And otherwise also we have been together in some meeting and I know him. And it was another pleasure for me to meet Jhaji, the Minister for Culture and the director of this Sanskruti Centre for Cultural Excellence. And of course, very respectable personality sitting before me, Nandaji. So I understand that at least some of you or many of you have had a first-hand knowledge of Natyashastra, and maybe some of you might not be having any exposure in Natyashastra. So I will begin with the question, what is Natyashastra? Natyashastra is a text written in Sanskrit. Obviously, we all know, all of us might be knowing, and it is ascribed to one Bharata or Bharat Muni. Muni is a sage, and it is the oldest and the most voluminous treatise on Natya, that is dramaturgy, theatre, and many other things. Actually, it is very difficult to translate many terms. It is difficult to find an equivalent word in English for Natya, like rasa and bhava and kavya and kavi. These are the terms which other languages might not be able to give an exact synonym. But roughly we can say theatre, theatrical arts, all the performing arts. So it's a text on Natya compiled around 2nd century BC. It's a debatable issue, of course, I won't be dealing with it. It's a work of encyclopedic nature. And can we enlarge it? It is so small in my device. Anyway, and it covers a wide range of topics. As Ragsudaji really pointed out, it is not just a text on dance. Only the fourth chapter out of the 36 or 37 chapters of Natyashastra, the fourth chapter deals with dance. It is titled Tandava Lakshanam. And the Bharatanatyam which we just saw, and the great exponents of Bharatanatyam, beginning the distinguished line from Rukmini Arundel, who resurrected it. So they largely draw from the fourth chapter of Natyashastra. And this misunderstanding that Natyashastra is a text on dance arose from the nomenclature Bharatanatyam and Bharata's Natyashastra, Bharatanatyashastra. And Bharatanatyam was not actually the name of the dance form as we know it now. It was called Dasiyattam. And Devadasis in South, they were practicing it. So it was Rukmini Arundel, so far as I know, who got the knowledge about this art form, and she resurrected it. I mean, she was right in saying that till now we have not decolonized our education system. But the whole 19th and 20th centuries have been wonderful times in our history, in our cultural history. We could rediscover many facets of our culture, many vistas we could open in the cultural arena. There was a Kelucharan Mahapatra who could resurrect Odissi dance form. There was Rukmini Arundel, and a long line of our disciples, Padmaji, Padma Subramaniam, who is in the line, Kapilaji, whom I used to know. And I was fortunate that I was blessed by these two great ladies. They loved me. They had a sort of affection for me. Padmaji still continues to have contact with me. So this misunderstanding, of course, has been cleared that Natyashastra has a vast spectrum to open before us related to performing arts and theater, and of course aesthetics. So we can be proud of Natyashastra, that we gave to the world a text which is one of the most comprehensive texts on aesthetics, music and musicology, theater arts, dramatic arts, on the theory of drama, and the philosophy of performing arts it gave. So Natyashastra has around 6,000 stanzas. They are called karikas or shlokas, and it has 36 or 37 chapters. I will not go into the details of it. And the discovery of Natyashastra towards the end of 19th century has been one of the most exciting events in our cultural history, and it has been one of the most important events also when Natyashastra was discovered. Natyashastra was compiled to set models and standards for the natas. Nata is a word, roughly you can say an actor. One who performs natya is a nata. They come from the same root, nata. And it was also compiled to set standards for the kavis, which is a word for the poets and playwrights both. Any laureate is a kavi in Sanskrit tradition. Any literary author would be called a kavi. And it is called a samhita or compendium. So it makes a systematic presentation of the conceptual framework as well as the theories and the practices of theater that have evolved during the few millennia in India in the BC era. As I understand the tradition, it starts in the hoary past, right from the Vedic age when Rig Veda was being seen, the mantras of Rig Veda were being seen, and maybe the age was 10,000 years in the BC era, 10,000 BC or 8,000 BC, as Tilak says, on the basis of his calculations of the positions of the constellations. And we find the theatric activity going on when the mantras of Rig Veda are being composed. They are being performed actually in the sanctum, around the Yajna Vedi. And we have pieces of drama in Vedic literature which were performed in the arena of the Yajna, in the sacrificial arena. And there are dialogue hymns that are being performed. So the Natya tradition begins in such an ancient times, and Bharat Muni was aware of this whole tradition, a theater being evolved gradually through the millennia preceding him. And he created a sort of documentation of this diverse tradition of theatrical arts. He is aware of the whole diversity and the whole panorama of theater which was there before him. And this was the first authentic record, of course. Before Bharat Muni also there was a text called Nat Sutra, which Panini refers to in his Ashtadhyayi. The Nat Sutra, as we understand from its name, it was a manual for the actors. And Shilalin, the author of Nat Sutra, was a priest, was a Vedic priest. So the text Nat Sutra is written by a Vedic seer in the Vedic period, and it's a manual for the actors because the drama is included as a part of the rituals, and a manual is needed as a guidebook for the natas who perform who do the theater in the area of the Yajna. And we also have a specimen of the plays which used to be performed. We have a Brahmachari Punshali Samvada and Advaryu Soma Vikrayi Samvada in the Shaut Sutras of Kalatyan Shaut Sutra and Katyan Shaut Sutra. They give the specimen of the dialogues which will be recited during the performance of a Vajpaya sacrifice or Ashwamedha sacrifice. So, and we have a script in Vedic language. That script is about Garudas bringing ambrosia from heaven. That play used to be performed on the occasion of Somayaga ceremony. So that script is published. It was published earlier from Germany, and now G.C. Tripathi, one of very senior scholars in India, he has brought out an Indian edition. So Amrita Haranam, and that play might have been written in Vedic language around 1000 BC. So we have the earliest play. We can say that even Greek plays were not there in 1000 BC perhaps. Aeschylus or other authors might be coming at a later period. So we can claim that we have the oldest theatrical system and world's oldest script of a play we have with us, and oldest text, one of the most comprehensive text on the art of theater we have with us. So authored in BC era. So Natyashastra is an Akar Grantha as I view it. It's a source book for the classical tradition of performing arts, and one of the few works that made the foundations of Indian culture, as Amishji rightly pointed out. And it has been substantially contributing to the making of the world culture in ancient and medieval times as well. If I'm asked to name 5 or 6 works from the corpus of Sanskrit literature who have contributed to the making of world culture and who have created the whole concept of Indian culture, I would say that Rig Veda, it's a world heritage now, and then Ramayana of Valmiki, then Mahabharata of Vyasa, then Ashtadhyayi of Panini, authored by a person who is said to be one of the most intelligent persons in the world history of in the world intellectual history, and then Kautilya's Arthashastra, and then last but not the least in the list would come Natyashastra. Last because it is chronology coming in the end. Rig Veda is the oldest text. It is the oldest text in the world library also. And then Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Ashtadhyayi and Arthashastra. Chronologically, this order will go. Otherwise, Natyashastra is as important to me as these great texts because it has immensely contributed to world culture. And I have data to show that Natyashastra has not been confined to our peninsula or Indian peninsula only. It reached, its outreach was to other countries, many other countries like Sri Lanka, Tibet, and Southeast Asian countries particularly. And we have uh, documents to prove that how Natya Shastra was practiced in these countries. I have been to Thailand for 3 years. I was a visiting professor there in one of the universities, and I find that the Karnas we just saw, Bharata Muni describes, Bharat Muni describes 108 Karnas in the Tandav Lakshana Adhyaya, in the 4th chapter of Natya Shastra, and we find many of these Karnas depicted in the temples in India, but in Southeast Asian countries also, in some of the temples, these Karnas are depicted in Cambodia and in Thailand. And the Thai people, when they perform Ramlila, they remember Bharat Muni. Pronunciation is a bit different. They say broth, something like that, broth. And Karnas also they say, these Karnas, they come to our tradition from India. So they remember that there was a sage Bharata who gave this theater system. And in this way, even in Japan where there was a great master of Japanese theater, Ziyami, and in his work on Kabuki, he says that the art of theater, as some say, came to our country from India, the land of Buddha. The very first sentence in his manual on Kabuki begins with this sentence. So in this way, Natya Shastra has contributed to world culture, the world culture of arts and performing arts. And sorry. So now I would come to the question how Natya Shastra was created. It is not a written text as such. It was not written by pen and pencil on paper. There must have been some Bharat Muni. He must have been a Vedic sage maybe. And some sages came to him once upon a time. It is written in a kind of narrative. It is Akhyana style it has been written. And the text itself says that Bharat Muni was sitting on an Anadhyaya day when he was not having any rehearsals with his disciples of theater, and he was not teaching Veda maybe. And some sages came to him. They were curious to learn Natya Shastra. Those sages might be specializing in other fields, maybe some Nayayika, some Mimansaka might have been there. But they also wanted to learn Natya. They felt that their disciplines are related to Natya. If you learn Mimansa, somehow you will feel that it would have been better if you had learned Natya Shastra also. If I study Natya Shastra, it becomes imperative for me to understand Mimansa system and other systems of philosophy as well. So those sages might have felt that they should learn Natya Shastra, and there is a great theater personality amongst them, Bharat Muni. So they approached Bharat Muni and they asked 5 questions to Bharata. These 5 questions are narrated in the very second Karika of Natya Shastra. Natya Veda Katham Brahman Utpanna Kasya Krate Katyanga Kim Pramanascha Prayogaschasya Kidrishaha. How Natya Veda Katham Brahman Utpanna. How Natya Veda came into existence. This was the first question. And Kasya Krate, for whom it came into existence, for whom it was created. Now, note this term. They are not saying Natya. How theater, it is not just a question about the genesis of theater. They are asking how Natya Veda came into existence. So they believe that Natya is a Veda. A Veda is eternal knowledge. So Natya is an eternal knowledge. As a Veda, it continues with us. It lives with us. It is within us. And only difference is that when it manifests, we say that we are practicing Natya. Otherwise, Natya as a Veda, as a knowledge. Ever since the Homo sapiens came on this earth, some kind of theater must have been with them. Natya must have been with them. So it's a Veda. So how this Veda came into existence? The question is about Utpatti. It is there, inherently it is within us. So the sages are asking how it came into existence, how it manifested, and then for whom it was created that way. And Kim Pramana Katyanga, how many components does it have? And how is it authenticated? Kim Pramana. What is the Pramana or authority of it, and how it is practiced? Prayogash Chasya Kidrasha. This is a 5 set of questions. And the wonderful thing about Natya is that there are many fives. There are again 5 questions in the 6th chapter. In subsequent chapters also, there are again 5 questions. In the last chapter also, they again present 5 questions before Bharat Muni. So Natyashastra goes on that way. There are questions, answers, counter questions, and this is always a set of 5. So this numerical game is there. In the whole text, there are so many 5, so many 4, so many triplicates, and so many so many 4s, you can say. So I would unfortunately, I don't have that much of the time. So there is a whole philosophy and the cosmic view, the rhythm of numbers, that is there in Natyashastra. So briefly, I would just give a layout of the whole Natyashastra, which was a spoken text. It is called Prokta Grantha. So many types of text are there in our tradition. Some Shruti is there. The Vedas are called Shrutis. Some other texts are Prokta texts. They are spoken. They are delivered in discourses like Aristotle's discourses, or even in modern theater personalities. Stanislavski, he used to deliver his discourses for the members of his theater group, and those discourses are published, and we study them. They teach Stanislavski's method in NSD and other schools of drama in our country. And wonderful similarities between Bharata and Stanislavski I find there. So this text, which was spoken by Bharat Muni and later on compiled, those discourses might have been compiled by his disciples. In that way, it became a 36 or 37 chapters text. And the first chapter is about Natyotpatti, the genesis of Natya or theater arts. And then the second chapter speaks about the construction of the building of theater, its architecture, Natya Mandapa. The third chapter describes the worshipping of the deities enshrined in the building. That is, the chapter is titled Rang Daivat Pujanam. And that is where we differ with the Western tradition. We believe that the whole cosmos is there. The whole Dev Mandal is there in the theater house. And this God is here, this God is here. And when an actor stages his entry, he believes that the gods are there, and he would enter that way. So that way it is connected to the whole concept of yajna ceremony. Because when they enter the yajna, the priests, when they enter, they say that Vishnu is here. So let our feet not touch him. The mantra is there in Yajurveda. So the whole idea of theater, which is generated from Yajurveda, the practice of rituals, that percolates our theater system, and the whole view, the whole cosmic view, which is there in the Vedic practices of rituals, that comes in this theater. So the fourth